I was 70 yards into the cave when my flashlight caught it. Not it. Him. Sitting against the back wall, motionless. At first I thought, dead hiker. Some poor soul who'd gotten lost and died in this remote Washington cave system. Then my light fully illuminated what I was seeing, and my brain struggled to process the impossibility. 8 feet tall, even sitting, covered in gray-white fur. Not clothing, fur. The face was ancient, deeply lined, weathered beyond anything I'd seen in human or animal. Eyes milky with cataracts, but still tracking my movement, still aware, still intelligent. The hands were massive, arthritic, resting on bent knees. The breathing was labored, rattling, the breathing of someone, something, dying. A Sasquatch, Bigfoot. The creature from 10,000 eyewitness reports and 0 confirmed evidence. Real, undeniable, sitting in front of me. Not running, not hiding, just sitting, waiting, dying. And as our eyes met across that cave, as I saw the resignation in that ancient face, I understood something profound. Something that would later shock every investigator who heard this story. He'd come here to die, alone, hidden, where no one would ever find the body. And I'd accidentally discovered why, in hundreds of years of searching, we'd never found remains, never found proof, never found evidence, because they made sure we never would. But to understand what I found that day in October 1987, to understand why it mattered, I need to start at the beginning. When I was 38 years old and thought I was just investigating another hoax. My name is Margaret Chen. I'm 76 years old now, retired from journalism for 20 years. But before I retired, I spent 30 years as an investigative reporter for the Seattle Times. I covered everything: politics, crime, environmental issues, human interest stories, and occasionally, when the news was slow, I'd get assigned the weird stuff: the UFO sightings, the lake monster reports, the Bigfoot stories. I was skeptical, professional, scientific in my approach. I'd investigated dozens of Bigfoot claims, found hoaxes, misidentifications, honest mistakes, never found anything real, until October 1987, until I found him. October 1987. I was 38 years old. The Times had received a letter from a hiker who claimed to have seen a Bigfoot near Mount Rainier. Standard stuff. We got these letters monthly. Usually we filed them. But this one was different. Detailed. Specific. Included precise coordinates. The hiker, a retired geology professor named Dr. Howard Martinez, included photographs. Blurry, distant shots. But something about them looked legitimate. Not the usual gorilla suit. Not the usual hoax markers. My editor tossed it to me. "Margaret, you've done Bigfoot stories before. Check this out. Probably nothing. But the photos are better than usual. Maybe worth a weekend trip. Get some wilderness shots. Interview the professor. Write a human interest piece. 1,500 words. Make it entertaining." I called Dr. Martinez, 73 years old, retired from University of Washington, credible, articulate, not crazy. "Ms. Chen, I know how this sounds. I've been a scientist for 50 years. I've dismissed Bigfoot claims my entire career. But what I saw, it was real. Large, bipedal, covered in dark fur, moving through the forest with clear purpose. I followed at a distance. It went into a cave system I'd explored years ago while doing geological surveys. I didn't follow it inside, but I marked the location, and I think someone should investigate properly, scientifically, not with bias, just with open eyes. His sincerity convinced me. I drove to his home in Tacoma, reviewed his photographs, examined his maps, his coordinates, his detailed field notes. This was thorough, professional. Not the rambling conspiracy theorist I usually encountered. This was a trained scientist reporting an observation, tentatively, cautiously, but honestly. "Will you come with me?" I asked. "Show me the location?" He hesitated. "I'm 73. The hike is difficult, but I can get you to the trailhead, give you precise directions. The cave entrance is marked on my map. You should be able to find it." October 24th, 1987. I drove to the coordinates, parked at the trailhead, hiked 3 miles into remote wilderness, found the cave entrance exactly where Dr. Martinez said it would be. Large opening, natural formation. I had professional camera equipment, recording gear, flashlights, proper safety equipment. I was treating this seriously, scientifically, even though I expected to find nothing. I entered the cave. The entrance tunnel went back about 40 feet, then opened into a larger chamber. My flashlight revealed natural rock formations, evidence of water flow, geological features Dr. Martinez had described. Normal cave, nothing unusual. I was about to leave when I noticed a secondary passage, smaller, easily missed, leading deeper. Professional curiosity made me follow it. The passage was tight, maybe 3 feet wide. I had to turn sideways in places. But it went back and back, maybe 70 yards total, getting narrower, getting darker. My flashlight was the only illumination. The air was stale, still, undisturbed for years maybe. Then the passage opened. Small chamber, maybe 15 feet across, 10 feet high. Natural rock walls showing water erosion patterns from millennia past. The air here was different. Stale, yes, but also carrying a scent I couldn't identify. Musky, organic. Not unpleasant, but distinctly animal. No, something else. Something between animal and human. Living being smell. Presence. And that's when my light found him. Sitting against the back wall. Massive, even-seated. 8 feet tall, easy if he stood. But he wasn't standing, wasn't moving. Just sitting. Back against stone. Legs bent, knees pulled close to massive chest. Arms resting on those knees. Position of exhaustion, or meditation, or simply age making any other position impossible. Covered entirely in fur that was predominantly gray-white, not the dark brown or black of reported sightings. Age had turned him pale, silver, like a gorilla going gray but more extensive, more complete. The fur was long. Maybe 6 inches on his chest and arms, shorter on his face. And the face. God, the face. Ancient. That's the only word. Deeply lined. Weathered beyond anything I'd seen in human or animal. The skin visible through thinner facial fur showed age spots. Wrinkles so deep they looked carved. The brow ridge was heavy. Pronounced in a way human faces aren't. The nose was broad. Flat, the mouth was wide, and the eyes, The eyes were clouded with cataracts, milky, white-gray, partially blind clearly. But they tracked my movement, followed my flashlight, aware, alert despite obvious deterioration. When our eyes met, I saw intelligence there. Unmistakable intelligence. Not animal wariness. Not predator assessment. Recognition. Understanding. Awareness that I was there. That I was human. That I was unexpected. The hands were massive. Easily twice the size of human hands. But arthritic. Swollen joints visible even through fur. Fingers thick. Strong once, but now gnarled with age. Knuckles enlarged. The grip on his knees looked weak. Trembling slightly. Old age tremors, or cold, or both. These were hands that had climbed trees, gathered food, built shelters, lived a full life, and now were in their final decline. He was breathing, each breath visible, chest rising and falling, but labored, rattling, wet sounds accompanying each inhalation. Pneumonia, maybe. Fluid in the lungs. Each breath sounded painful, difficult, terminal. This wasn't someone fighting to live. This was someone managing the process of dying, making it through each breath, each moment, waiting for the end. And he looked at me. Direct eye contact. Not the aversion most animals show. Not the dominance challenge of predators. Just looking, seeing me, understanding what I was, knowing I'd found him, and his expression, even across species, even through features so different from human, showed something I could read. Resignation? Acceptance? Perhaps even relief that he wouldn't die completely alone? That another conscious being would witness his passing? I froze. My hand was on my camera. Professional instinct screaming, "Document this! Record everything! This is proof. This is the story of a lifetime. This is evidence that will change science, change cryptozoology, change everything we think we know about North American fauna. This is career-defining, life-changing, history-making." But my finger wouldn't press the shutter, because looking at that ancient face, seeing the intelligence in those clouded eyes, this wasn't a specimen, wasn't a discovery, wasn't a story. This was a being, a person, an individual, elderly, dying in his final moments, experiencing something universal and profoundly private. And I was intruding, violating, turning something sacred into something documented. This was someone's grandfather, maybe. Someone's elder. Someone who'd lived 80, 90 years. Who'd seen seasons change thousands of times. Who'd survived, thrived, experienced joy and pain and everything between. Who'd reached the end. Who'd chosen this place to die. Who'd come here deliberately. Seeking privacy, seeking peace, seeking to end his days hidden from the world that had never acknowledged his existence. And I'd stumbled into that, accidentally, unintentionally, but undeniably intruding on something I had no right to witness. I lowered my camera. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I didn't mean to disturb you." He made a sound, low, rumbling, not threatening. Acknowledgement, maybe. Understanding that I wasn't a threat, that I was just another being, lost, curious, accidentally present at his death. I sat down, 20 feet away, giving him space, respecting his privacy, and I waited, because leaving felt wrong. Leaving him to die completely alone felt cruel. So I stayed. Stranger keeping vigil for stranger. Across species. Across impossible boundaries. Just two beings sharing a moment. One dying, one witnessing. He died 3 hours later. The breathing got slower, shallower. The pauses between breaths got longer. Then finally stopped. And he was gone. Peacefully, quietly, with more dignity than most humans get in their deaths. I sat there for another hour, processing, grieving strangely for someone, something I'd known for only 3 hours. Then I left, hiked out, drove home, and tried to figure out what to do. I didn't write the story, didn't publish the photos I hadn't taken, didn't seek fame or recognition. Instead, I called Dr. Martinez, told him what I'd found, asked him what I should do. He said, "That depends. Do you want to violate his final wish, or respect it?" "What do you mean?" "He went there to die, Ms. Chen. Alone. Hidden. Where no one would find the body. Where evidence of his species would remain hidden. He chose that. Deliberately. If you report this, you violate that choice. You expose what he worked to keep hidden. The question is, does science's need for proof outweigh his right to die as he chose?" I thought about it for days, then made my decision. I contacted the National Park Service, anonymously, gave them coordinates, told them there were remains in that cave that needed to be documented. Didn't say what kind, just remains. Let them discover it themselves. They found him 2 weeks later, November 1987. Rangers doing a routine cave survey. They documented everything. Photographed, measured, collected samples, then contacted anthropologists, who contacted primatologists, who contacted everyone who'd spent careers searching for Bigfoot evidence. And what they found, what they documented over the next 6 months, shocked everyone. Dr. Patricia Williams, lead anthropologist from Washington State University, published the findings in a restricted circulation scientific journal. I got access through professional contacts, and the report was stunning. Not just because it confirmed Sasquatch existed, but because of what it revealed about why we'd never found proof before. The remains were male, approximately 80-90 years old based on dental wear and bone degradation, died of natural causes, advanced age, probable pneumonia based on fluid evidence in lung tissue. But the significant finding was location. He'd chosen that cave deliberately. Evidence showed he'd been there for weeks before death, had brought materials, soft plant fibers for bedding, water containers made from bark, food stores. He'd prepared, planned, known he was dying, and selected this location specifically. The cave was nearly inaccessible, 70 yards back through a passage barely 3 feet wide. No large predators could access it. No casual hikers would find it. The body would have decomposed naturally, been consumed by insects and bacteria. Within 2 years, only scattered bones would remain. Within 5, even bones would deteriorate. No evidence, no proof, no discovery. Dr. Williams's conclusion was profound. The lack of Bigfoot remains in the fossil record, and modern discovery isn't evidence they don't exist. It's evidence they understand death and deliberately hide their dead. This individual showed clear intention, clear planning, clear understanding that leaving remains would compromise his species' secrecy. This suggests intelligence we haven't credited them with, suggests cultural practices around death, suggests deliberate preservation of species anonymity. Over the next year, quietly, anthropologists reviewed centuries of Native American accounts and found patterns, stories of the old ones going to the mountain to die, stories of the hidden death places, stories of elaborate burial practices where the ancient ones ensured their bodies would never be found. Not superstition, not myth. Accurate observation of species behavior. Cultural transmission of end-of-life practices designed to protect species survival through continued anonymity. They found 3 more sites over the next decade. Always remote caves, always nearly inaccessible, always containing remains of elderly individuals who died naturally, who'd gone to these places deliberately, who'd hidden themselves in death as they'd hidden themselves in life, protecting their species, ensuring humans never found proof, never found evidence, never confirmed their existence, because existence without proof was safer than proof without protection. The scientific community faced a dilemma. They had proof, multiple specimens, clear evidence, but publishing would violate the very thing these individuals had died to protect: their species' anonymity, their safety through secrecy. After extensive debate, they chose silence, documented everything, preserved specimens, but kept it classified, restricted, available only to credentialed researchers. No public announcement, no press release, no fame. Just quiet acknowledgement among scientists that yes, they exist, and yes, they've chosen invisibility as survival strategy. And yes, we should respect that choice. I knew all this because Dr. Williams contacted me in 1988, wanted to thank me for the anonymous tip, wanted to understand what I'd witnessed. I told her everything: the vigil, the death, the decision not to publicize. She thanked me, said I'd done the right thing, said I'd honored his choice, said that was more important than any story. I'm 76 years old now. That was 37 years ago. And I've had decades to think about what I witnessed, what it meant, what I learned. And I want to share those conclusions, the morale of this story, the deeper truth I discovered in that cave. First lesson: intelligence and consciousness exist in forms we don't recognize. That elderly Sasquatch understood death, understood his mortality, understood the need to hide his body to protect his species, understood future consequences of present choices. That's not animal instinct. That's sophisticated reasoning, abstract thinking, cultural transmission of knowledge. Everything we claim makes humans special exists in species we call primitive. We just refuse to see it because acknowledging it complicates our sense of superiority. Second lesson: privacy and dignity in death are universal rights, not human privileges. I could have photographed him, could have documented everything, could have had undeniable proof, career-making evidence, fame, recognition. But he was dying, and no one, regardless of species, deserves to have their death turned into spectacle, turned into evidence, turned into proof of someone else's theory. He deserved to die with dignity, in peace with privacy. That's not sentiment. That's basic respect for conscious beings facing their end. And if we can't extend that respect across species, what does that say about us? Third lesson: Some knowledge is more important kept secret than revealed. We worship disclosure, transparency, public knowledge, but sometimes secrecy serves greater good. These beings have survived centuries, millennia maybe, by staying hidden, by remaining myth rather than confirmed species, because confirmed species get studied, get tracked, get protected in ways that often harm more than help. Their survival strategy is invisibility, and my revealing that would have destroyed centuries of successful adaptation. Some truths serve better as mysteries than as confirmed facts. Fourth lesson. Science's need for proof doesn't automatically outweigh a species' right to anonymity. We assume knowledge is always good, that documenting everything serves humanity. But what about the documented? What about species that don't want to be known? Don't want to be studied? Don't want to be confirmed? Do they have rights? Does their preference matter? Or does human curiosity override all other considerations? I chose to prioritize their choice over my career, over science's desire for evidence, and I don't regret it, because their autonomy mattered more than our knowledge. Fifth lesson. Witnessing death changes you regardless of whose death you witness. I sat with that elderly Sasquatch for 3 hours while he died. Watched his breathing slow. Watched the life leave his eyes. Watched consciousness fade. And it affected me the same way watching any death affects you. With gravity, with sorrow, with awareness of mortality, with understanding that life, all life, is precious and temporary. His death wasn't different because he wasn't human. It was exactly the same in all the ways that matter, and that teaches us something profound about the universality of existence, the shared experience of being alive, and the shared fate of dying. Sixth lesson. Cultural practices around death reveal species intelligence more than any other behavior. Tools can be instinct. Social structures can be genetic. But burial practices, end-of-life planning, choosing death locations that protect species' secrets, that's culture. That's transmitted knowledge. That's understanding past, present, and future implications. That's everything we use to define intelligence. And it exists in beings we call animals. Exists in species we dismiss as folklore, which means either they're far more intelligent than we acknowledge, or our definition of intelligence is too narrow to capture the full spectrum of consciousness in the world. Seventh lesson. The absence of evidence can be evidence of intelligence, not evidence of absence. For decades, we said no Bigfoot bodies, therefore no Bigfoot. But we had it backwards. No bodies because they deliberately hide them. Because they understand that evidence threatens their survival. Because they're smart enough to maintain secrecy across generations. The absence of proof wasn't disproving their existence. It was confirming their intelligence. We just couldn't see it. Because we assumed only humans were smart enough to deliberately avoid detection. And the final lesson, the one that matters most, is that sometimes the greatest service we can provide is silence. Not every truth needs telling. Not every discovery needs publicizing. Not every secret needs exposing. That elderly Sasquatch spent his final weeks hiking to a remote cave, preparing a death chamber, ensuring his body would never be found, protecting his species with his last conscious acts. Who am I to undo that? Who am I to violate that intention for my career, for fame, for the satisfaction of being right. The greatest thing I ever did as a journalist was choose not to publish the story of a lifetime, because some stories serve better untold. Some secrets protect more than they conceal, and some beings deserve to die as they choose, unmolested by our need to know. That's what I learned sitting in that cave watching an elderly Sasquatch die. That's what 37 years of reflection has taught me. That's the morale of this story. Not that Bigfoot is real, though he is. Not that I found proof, though I did. But that intelligence, dignity, culture, and consciousness exist far beyond the boundaries we've drawn around humanity. That other species have rights we need to respect. That privacy matters. That choices matter. That sometimes the most ethical thing a journalist can do is not write the story. And that death, universal, inevitable death, teaches us that all beings, regardless of form, share the same fundamental journey. From life to awareness, to choices, to eventual end, and deserving of respect through all of it. I never published the story, never sought credit, never revealed what I saw until now, 37 years later, when everyone involved is gone, and revealing it serves only as lesson, not as violation. That elderly Sasquatch died protecting his species' secret. The investigators who studied him chose to honor that choice. I chose silence, and I've never regretted it, because some things matter more than truth, some beings matter more than knowledge, and some deaths deserve to be private, regardless of whose death they are. The real story wasn't finding proof Bigfoot exists. It was learning why we never found proof before, and choosing to honor the intelligence and intention that created that absence. That's the story. That's the truth. That's what matters.